Yeah, ya, ya, ha, ya, hey, yeah, hey, no, yeah, ya, ya, ha, ya, hey, yeah, hey, hey, no. Kako enetske sa seteyen akana machinene yo masi hey ya oh hey ya oh.
It's actually a good day to be in, even though it is sunny. We're so incredibly excited here to debut Ancestral Woman, which is going to be traveling after this date. They had a wonderful dress rehearsal yesterday at the Indian Community School. My name is Dawn Chertomé, and I am the curator of anthropology here at the Milwaukee Public Museum. And when the creator of this came to me, it was about a year and a half ago, and she had this wonderful idea to honor the many women within Wisconsin, the indigenous women in Wisconsin. And I was very excited. It was kind of loose at that time. But to see it come to fruition, I am absolutely thrilled that we were chosen to honor this space. So, Ancestral Women is dedicated to George A. Moore, which was Carolyn's amazing husband, who worked with us, both of them actually met here and fell in love at the Milwaukee Public Museum, working on a Tribute to Survival exhibit. This is the 25th anniversary of that exhibition. And this is also dedicated to all of the other models on the Great Entry Scene who have walked on. So it's incredibly special for all of us. So without further ado, Ancestral Women.
I say welcome to you today, Bindigin, in honor of our Geke Anishinaabe, Ikoiwa, our Nuksumises, and Kubedes, our grandmas and our great-grandfathers that come before us and gave us our wisdom and knowledge to pass on through ceremonies and given us life. So I want to say a prayer to welcome everybody here and to honor you that way. And then I'm going to sing a short song to honor our grandmas in the Great Spirit. So, Buju Kichimanidu, Shimigwich and Denaway Maganda, and Shumus is Wabanang, and Shumus Javanang, and Shumus Nigabi, and Shumus Kiwadin, a kind Mama, and Denaway Maganda. Onusne Spignari, Pete Tanawad, Gidishin, Kazam, Kachamaha, or Sichigam, Marazin, Gage, Manadu, Shumus is money do. It'll be Marazin, you play what, Kishi Manadu, Shumus, Shimigwich. Miigwech Kichi Manadu, Miigwech Kichi Manadu, Geke Anishinaabe, Miigwech Kichi Manadu, Miigwech Kichi Manadu, Geke Anishinaabe Kwe. Miigwech Kichi Manadu, Miigwech Kichi Manadu, Geke Anishinaabe Kwe. Thank you for all being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's presentations. Big Witch.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Barb Blackyer McKenzie, and we are here meeting in gratitude for our ancestors. Today's performance is dedicated to George Amor and the others who contributed to the tribute of survival who have walked on. So we ask you to keep them in your thoughts and prayers today as we continue. I was asked to do this because I am Ho-Chunk. The Ho-Chunk people have been in this area for no less than 2 ice ages, about 40,000 years at least. So in that sense, it's a great honor, and I am very humbled to be before you today. We'd like to put out some special acknowledgments to Mary Burns for the fiber art and the inspiration that she did with her artwork. We'd also like to acknowledge Tinker Schumann, who's the lady that was just out here, and her visions, as well as Carol Amor for her coordination and facilitation. We invite you for a talk back at the end of the performance. This is definitely still a work in progress. To be honest, we started this yesterday as a collaboration, so it is very organic. And of course, we give gratitude for all of you coming here with us today.
Don't let the victim, don't let the victim stand alone. We are people of the backbone nation. Hey, hey, ah, hey, oh. We are people of the backbone nation. Hey, hey, ah, hey, oh. People of the earth. 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 Women are the backbone, backbone, backbone. Women are the backbone, backbone.
Wait, these are ancestors. We're supposed to write about them.
But they're so ancient.
Ancestors? I think I've heard that word before.
I wish I knew more about ancestors so I knew what to write about.
Hi again. This is Emma Padamon. She is an expert master bead worker, and this is how she made her living. For our kids, did you know the design for my dress is about 1,000 years old? The design style is called applique. When scientists call my Ho-Chunk people Oneota and Mississippian, that's the time frame when this design was first made. Back then, our ancestors wove fabric from plant fibers or used hides from deer, wolves, bear, or other smaller animals like raccoon, squirrel, skunk, and beaver. My Ho-Chunk ancestors did not meet white people until about 1620 at a place called Mogoshuch, Red Banks, now called Green Bay. But Christopher Columbus had made his way to our continent 130 years before that, around 1492. Did you know that Christopher Columbus did not discover America? Rather, our ancestors and relatives of the Arawak, Lucan, and Dano tribes met his ships. Our ancestors made civilizations with cities. Some of the cities were as large as 1 million people, like my Oneota ancestors who built Cahokia in Illinois. We had couriers, much today like UPS or Federal Express, only ours were runners, who delivered packages, medicines, and messages from village to village and tribe to tribe. One of the sad parts about that is when the European people got here, diseases spread fast across our country because we had no immunity. Where our indigenous population was once over 100 million people, diseases swept through and our population dropped to less than 6 million by 1650. Did you know our tribal nations were considered other countries by the United States? That's why the term treaty was used for the agreements made between the US government and our tribal governments. Ho-Chunk signed treaties in 1816, 1825, 1827, and 1829. But in 1830, the US Congress passed the Indian Removal Act that said we had to give up our lands and move west of the Mississippi. Other treaties were signed, some forcibly, but they were all about getting our lands in exchange for something else. Did you know our ancestors were forcibly removed by the US Army cavalry, sometimes by gunpoint? From our homelands, we were put on reservations, meant to kill us. Little food, foreign soil that would not grow our seed, little time, and lots of moving around caused many to die. Elders, children, and people with disabilities. Some people were moved hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away from their homelands. For example, Oneida, Mohegan, and Mohawk were some of them that weren't originally from Wisconsin but are now here. And we Ho-Chunk also got forcibly removed. Some to Iowa, Minnesota, the Dakotas, and Nebraska. They had to walk, run, and were even forced onto train cars by the cavalry to move us away from our homelands. Many of our ancestors ended up walking all the way back to Wisconsin. For my relatives, it was about 800 miles. Our ancestors were considered enemies of the United States, even though our ancestors were here first. It wasn't until 1924 that we finally all got U.S. citizenship. That's less than 100 years ago, and the U.S. is now 242 years old. Did you know many of our grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents were forced to go to boarding schools? Some schools were good, where kids learned about science, learned instruments like in band, played sports, but many were not good places. Children were stolen from their parents and put into schools where their hair was cut, their names changed to something that sounded less Indian, punished if they spoke their native language, and they could not look out for one another. Much sadness and abuse happened in those schools, and it still affects us now. My auntie died at one of those boarding schools, Como Boarding School here in Wisconsin. Did you know, through the child stealing and all that I just explained, we'd lost a lot of our relatives? Some of them we're still looking for. Some of them have been found and want nothing to do with being native. Our ancestors and even some of our elders, maybe even our parents, had a hard time. But you know what? We survived, we are alive, we strive, and we thrive. Today, this is our time for me to share with you. Someday, I will not be here, and it will be your time. It's important that you pass on these stories and this knowledge to the children. That way, they will know that they too are the descendants of incredibly strong people.
Diana Miller, born and raised on the Menominee Reservation. During a time in the 50s when the U.S. government attempted to end the status of us Menominee and our sovereignty as a nation. At 18 years old, Diana left the reservation. She worked with the Milwaukee Health Department. She attended the University of Milwaukee. She also attended Marquette University. She studied labor laws and conflict resolution. Diana became the first American Indian woman on the American Federation state, county, municipal employee in Madison from 1993 to 2008. In addition, she was the first American Indian woman elected from Wisconsin to participate in the International Year of the Woman. As a politically active woman, she founded and became vice chair of the American Indian Caucus. She also was chair of the Menominee County Democratic Party and a member of the 8th Congressional District Executive Board of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. You see beside her, Jamon Louise Amor. She is Diana's grandmother. Born in the 1800s, she was very instrumental in the leadership of the Menominee people. Jamon is a medicine woman, and she traveled to Oshkosh for a celebration of Chief Oshkosh. Another strong Menominee woman I would like to present is Ada Deer. Ada, also born on the Menominee Reservation, whose mother was also a strong advocate for Native American rights, so naturally, Ada followed in her footsteps. Ada became the first Menominee to earn an undergraduate degree at the University of Wisconsin. Then she transferred to Columbia University, where she obtained her master's in social work. I have to say, Matchwawanen to her, Ada Deer, and all those who participated on drums. because of their commitment and their perseverance, we, the Menominee, were reinstated as a nation of Wisconsin in 1972. Her strong political activism led her to be the first Native American woman in Wisconsin to run for U.S. Congress. And she was appointed in 1993 as Assistant Secretary of U.S. Department of Interior, as head of Bureau of Indian Affairs. At age 83, she continues to strive and to advocate to sustain our Menominee Nation, our sovereignty, our culture, our language, and our land. I am so honored and grateful to be able to present these women. These women who have carried on that strength from their ancestors, from their grandmothers. And again, I'm very grateful to continue to share their stories. Maxwell Lyons.
I didn't know. And Marla McKimmontoss from Menominee. I didn't know that the Ho-Chunk in Menominee had been here for so long.
I wonder how long my tribe has been here for.
This is starting to get interesting.
Women, water, both the same. Both are sacred. This song we're going to perform here was written along with Pam and myself and some students from Lactaflambo Grade School.
Sacred as a woman, a sama in her hand. Water makes a rainbow, thunder coming dawn. We are family, hey, help us sing our song.
Mesquabicon and Dunjaba, Makwa Dodem and Dodem. I'm here representing for Harriet Teresa Lafreniere Balber, her daughter who was supposed to come for this, couldn't make it, so they asked me to do this honor, which I'm very honored to do. And what I said in my introduction was that my name is Kabe De Don Makwa Kwe Dishnakas. That means that sound of the bear coming. I got that name probably 7 years ago, I would say. And I'm from the Makwa clan. I'm from Red Cliff, Wisconsin, up on Lake Superior. Bewitched. So just let me read this off for you. Harriet Teresa Lafreniere Balber, who is from the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa. She was born into the Hmong, which is the Loon clan, in 1927 to James and Josephine Gurnall Lafreniere. Harriet was raised with 8 siblings. She attended Haskell Indian School and graduated from Bayfield High School. Her early educational experiences, the good and the bad, would have greatest impact on her life. She often spoke of her love of learning and how it helped to support and change her worldviews. Harriet took great and humble pride in the educational achievements of her 10 children, all of whom established careers in the areas of law, medicine, education, and human and social services. Harriet helped many women struggling with family and domestic issues. She continued to address these issues when she first became a community advocate and later when she was appointed as a tribal judge for the Red Cliff tribe. Although she was reserved in speech and demeanor, she learned to speak both with authority and compassion. Harriet had a hearty laugh and loved spending time with her large family and friends. Her motto was, whatever it takes to strengthen your faith in yourself, you need to do it. Miigwech.
Bonjour. Bidanakwa Dukwan Indigenous Cause. Aji Jakindo Dem, Mashkazi Bingin Dunjaba. My English name is Donna Yahola. My clan is Crane, and my Indian name is Coming Cloud Woman, from Bad River. Hey, Bad River in the house. Okay, thank you. So I am representing my mother and her grandmother. And in this portrait, there is a, my grandma Celia is not in the portrait because there have been too many people in one portrait. But I just want to honor Grandma Cecilia because she raised 11 children and she had many grandchildren. Her husband's sister, so her sister-in-law Grace Ardershon, who used to live in Lac de Flambeau, they each had 11 kids. And so my great aunt had 11 kids, and then my grandma and grandpa only had 9. And then my grandma got pregnant with a set of twins and caught up to them. And then, this is another good story. My family had 8 boys and 3 girls. I have 8 uncles and 2 aunties. And then in their family, they had 8 girls and 3 boys. So that was always a joke at our gatherings. So my mother here just recently passed away in the moon, the strawberry moon of this past year. And it's ironic because she was in my singing group, and we call ourselves the Strawberry Moon Women Singers. So it was very blessed at the time that she left during the Strawberry Moon to be with our Creator and all her loved ones on the other side. My mother, she was raised in Milwaukee because my grandparents had to come to Milwaukee after World War II because there was no work up in Odana. And of course, with 11 kids, you gotta have a job. So they came to Milwaukee and they made their home here. My mother was born in Odana, and her grandmother here, Julia Shibayash, helped birth her in Odana. and she came down when she was in 3rd grade. She joined the military. She was a Marine Corps veteran, very proud Marine Corps veteran, I might say. And she loved her children, and she loved her grandchildren. And another notable fact about my mother was that she helped start a Catholic Indian church right here in Milwaukee called the Congregation of the Great Spirit. She was one of the founding members. She was the trustee for 25 years until she retired. And the Penobscot women gave her a drum, the church a drum, and it was a ladies' drum. And all the ladies would sing on that drum. And my mother used to say, the ladies are the boss of this drum, and we'll let you guys if you can sing with us. Because my mom was kind of a tomboy too. So that's all I wanted to say about my beloved mother. And then my great-grandmother, she was let me read this right now. She was a Migiziwiganatig. Migiziwigwanatig. She was the keeper. She was a Ganawandum, one who take care of the eagle staff. So this is the original Bad River Eagle staff of the day in the early 1900s. And my grandmother was a cultural bearer, Medewan, then Catholic, hiding the Medewan in the woods while she practiced Catholic in public because it was illegal to practice our ways. She was a great bead worker. She was well respected, and she taught a lot of people how to do many things, beadwork, wigwam making, all that kind of good stuff that we used to do while racing. And so at this time, I know I'm getting very wordy, but they're worth it. I'm going to sing a song now in honor of those women, and especially for my late mother. And my spiritual mom here, Tinker, who gave me my Indian name, Idana Kwadukwe, will sing with me.
This is called the Strong Woman Song for all the women in the exhibit, for all of you women out there, and all of your ancestors that are women. Okay? Capiche? Go in?
I know Donna Yohola. She's related to Mr. Tropic. Her mom was very brave.
Her mom is with the ancestors now.
But her spirit is with us.
I think the ancestors gave us a lot.
Bonjour. I am Vicky Ackley. My Indian name, Ogimakwe Minagaki, Queen of the Forest. I am honored and humbled to be here today to talk about and tell you about my great Grandma Randall. Her English name, Alice Ackley Randall. Her spirit name, Wabiye Ishikokwe, Walk Around the Sun Lady, and the tapestry represents the sun. Wabiye, she was born in 1899 in a farmhouse by Lake Matanga in the newfound city of Crandon in Forest County, Wisconsin. At the age of 3, her family reverted to their familiar indigenous pattern of living and moved back to the shores of Bishop Lake, where they shared an Indian village with 3 or 4 other families. Back in 1968, I found an excerpt from the Green Bay Press Gazette when they did a write-up on her when she was crowned Indian Mother of the Year. They quoted her, "I was only about 6 years old then, but I can remember that the frame of the lodge was formed by poles and covered with cedar bark. There was also a platform of poles built up around the lodge where she had slept beneath fir robes. When she was young, most of the tribe followed the ancient traditions and customs, depending on nature to supply the bulk of their needs. The men hunted, trapped, and fished, while women and children gathered tubers, berries, nuts, and herbs. Each fall, they harvested wild rice, which was a staple part of their diet. In the spring, they would move into the sugar bush to collect and boil the sap from maple trees. Sacred dances were still performed in the medicine lodge, and offerings were made to the Creator, the Great Spirit. At the age of 8, Great-Grandma went to live with the family of her uncle, Charles Ackley. She stated, "I liked living with my relatives, but that fall, I was sent away to the government school in Wittenberg, Wisconsin. Can anyone imagine what a terrifying experience that can be? There were about 200 Indian youngsters in the same boat. Steeped in ancient traditions, our people, we were simply uprooted, plucked out of our natural environment, and placed in the strange new world under the supervision of pitiless whites. It was actually a nightmare the first couple of years. I didn't know a word of English until I was sent to this boarding school, and we were severely punished every time we uttered an Indian word. I guess they were determined to impress us with the necessity of learning English, but under this method of teaching, we lived in constant fear. I was slapped across the face so many times that I can practically feel the sting today whenever I think of those grim years."
Mijakwad, Indigenous, Makwad, Nindodem, Odawa, Saiganing, Nindunjaba, Nagali Beneshi Kwe, Nagali Benesh, Medewe Gishigukwe, Mamewa, Zagi Wen, Ogama Benes. My namesake here, Lucy Mustache Begay, from the Coudray, up near Hayward, Wisconsin, is where our home is. I'm going to speak from the heart because I remember her as a little girl from Chicago area. She was a founder with her husband, the late Eugene Begay. They founded the American Indian Center in Chicago, Illinois. They made sure that we were in our regalias, our traditional dress that I'm wearing today of the Anishinaabe people. We wear our dresses for the medicine and the healing that we brought in this morning. And miigwech to our singers, the heartbeat of all nations, to sing in honor of our ancestors. We spread the positive energy among the audience here because the Creator gave us this day. Mijakwet, as you notice, it was a beautiful clear sky out there. That's my Indian name, her Indian name. She was from the fish clan, the sturgeon clan. Her ancestors, along with all of our grandparents, suffered back in the day, as she spoke before me. They did what they could back in those days. From having to be relocated to the cities, they had to find jobs, they had to find places to live and work. They worked hard at keeping the Indian Child Welfare Act, bringing that in 1978. They worked hard with the treaty rights. It ended up flooding our lands of Lacoudray, the Northern States Power Company. It flooded the ancestors' graves on the Chippewa flowage, our wild rice beds. We had to endure the strengths of what they had to. There was no running water. There was no electricity. There was outdoor toilets. Very hard times. And then the HUD homes came in, separated our clans, our families, into 29 communities. But as our teachings in the Wet'at Way, as a namesake, the Mijakwet name that carried on all the way through 5 generations of knowing their family and being raised among each other from Chicago to Lakudere. I'm very thankful for this museum because that's one of my childhood memories, was dancing in the museums of Chicago, dancing by the Green River. Hopefully our water never turns that dyed color. Hopefully our water ways of the Great Lakes that our families came from, to find the food that grows on the water, the wild rice. May they always be there. May we always have clean water. That's what I pray for in all of us women, all of our families, and all of yous. Because we all know we're not going to be able to survive without water. We have one earth. As we all know, we have to get along as diversity of those Chicago days and learn the languages. Her daughter is now the founder of Wadukadaden, fully immersed Ojibwe program that my granddaughters are going through, and my grandson now. To hear them translate to me back from my relative that's on his last days, to always use our language. She came from the boarding school days of remembering those days where we couldn't use our language. We couldn't dance. I don't want my grandchildren to never ever not be able to use the language. I want them to always remember who they are, where they come from, and where they're going in the end. Because that's very powerful. Our language, where we come from, our homelands, and our Creator, the Spirit of all living things that are surrounding us. The water is so sacred. The trees and the plants that grow among us, where we're from. The animals that provide the food. The traditional medicines that are out there to cure cancer, they're out there through those ceremonies of those songs. The beadwork that she created, like all of us have our regalia, is one of a kind. You won't see it anywhere in the world, and you will not see it in the museum unless I'm gone. But I don't want it to be gone that way. I want it to have it be alive. I want it passed down like we're told with the stories from our elders, to have it passed down to my grandchildren. May they continue to dance as we fought to be in the parades and the museums and the schools, to educate, to build that bridge that their family and all the other families have done for us. And I always want to have them continue that freedom. The freedom of this homelands. May it be protected with strong voices from our hearts and from our experiences, that we'll never be able to be afraid of standing up for who we are and telling our own stories. I haven't learned what I know from many books. I've learned from being taught from these strong grandmothers who always opened their doors. They always had food on the table. They always had tea on that wood stove. They always welcomed you in their homes. You tired? Sit down. Want something to eat? Give you a place to wash your face, to rest. We always took care of our elders. We always took care of the babies. They were the midwives. All the way around full circle to the end. They dressed them right there. They sewed the beadwork. They sewed their regalia for their clothing to the spirit world. They made the moccasins to wear. They cleaned and dressed the deceased. All the way, full circle. We never left our children behind. It's very important so that they will learn their language, their culture, their traditions, their heritage, so that they will stay powerful and strong, as nothing can take away our spirit. It's not for sale. Our land, we have to take care of it. We have to take care of our homelands for the benefit of our children that they work so hard for, and to keep the language alive by learning it again, to be who I was. So I danced. I danced many miles from Chicago, just like my dad drove semi. I believe I danced all the way around the United States and Canada and overseas. This is what my grandmothers taught me. To learn about our regalia, our beadwork, our dresses, our dances, our songs, our traditional medicines, our way of life. And I'm very proud to be Mijakwid. I'm very proud to represent that name, because I now have 100 namesakes that I oversee to make sure that if they need help with their Indian name, or to find their clan, or to know who their ancestors are on their family tree, or to know how to make their dresses, or to know how to dance to those songs. I didn't learn it in the book. I learned it from our ancestors. And I want to say a big miigwech to be able to stand here in front of you today to share that with you. A big miigwech to Gitchimanidu, our Creator, for blessing us right now with this precious time of life. As all of us, may all of you remember your ancestors too. As I know they're all down smiling upon us. You're going to feel that spirit. You're going to feel their spirit and their love. And all you have to do is think of them. Think of their name. And they're going to be close by. Before I rode down here, 6 hours, 11 eagles surrounded me. I didn't have the money to come down here. And then all of a sudden, I was able to get the cash to come down here. And all of us were taken care of very well in this homelands. And those eagles sang, and you could hear their wings flapping. And I put out my asema for them, because they fly the closest to the Creator. And I wanted permission to speak on behalf of Mijakwid, my namesake. I had the honor to do that, and I was nervous and scared. But the older ones always say, speak from the heart. because that's the truth. That's your own experience. And that's what they gave to me, the blessings. That's what I feel. Those blessings from the eagles that bring our messages in our prayers for our loved ones. That they can always guide us. And that we can always learn the trades that they've done for our people. They endured hardships. And then we want to make sure as grandmothers now, myself, to make sure our grandchildren and the children around us are taken care of.
And I am the great-granddaughter of Mary Wabanus George. She was born August 20th, 1910, and she grew up on Skunk Hill. It was located in Wood County, I believe. And her mother was Pemsek, and her dad was Charlie Wabanus. From when she was a baby, she was taught the language and the importance of the language, and you know, so she knew that, and her mom and her dad taught her, you know, the prayerful ways of life, and just all around an Anishinaabe woman. But before the boarding schools, she was you know, really active in the community, and you know, a really good child. But she got taken away to Pipestone, Minnesota, to the boarding school, and there was several others there with her as well, and it was a pretty sad feeling. You know, all of us can get that feeling when we talk about the boarding schools. You know, she was, all of them were condemned of speaking their language and doing anything that was related to being who they were. But she eventually picked up new skills that made her feel good and did something for her. She really enjoyed gardening, cooking, and you know, she got a little bit into nursing. She ended up meeting my grandpa Ike, and she had my grandma Arlene, and after she had my grandma, she became really involved in children. I don't know if there was some kind of spark that blew up in her, and she took in kids and helped them out who didn't have parents or maybe lived a rough life. And she did that, and a lot of people in the community was inspired by her and watching her do that. So with that, I'm really appreciative to be here and to speak on behalf of my great-grandma. And I really do believe, you know, she was a really strong woman, and she believed in herself, that she made it to 74 years of life. You know, it's a big deal, and you know, we get to see our elders live for a long time, and to remember them and to honor them. So I just like to say thank you, Chimi Butch. Hello, how are you all? My name is Sepahim, which translates to shines brightly in brilliant colors. My English name is Lakeisha. I am from the Stockbridge Muncie Reservation. I am Oneida and Stockbridge, and like my grandmother, I am Turtle Chrome. This is Bernice Miller, also known as Bernice Davids and Bernice Pigeon. This is my great-great-grandmother, and I'd like to apologize to excuse myself in all of the, for speaking in front of all of the elders. My grandma Miller's Indian name was Natuska, which translates to the gatherer. She was born September 1st in 1918. She was the oldest of Elmer and Eureka Davids. She was born in Red Springs, which is near Gresham, Wisconsin, and she was raised there on a farm with her brothers and sisters. In 1935, my grandma Miller married Arvid E. Miller, and we had 10 children and helped to raise 2 others who they adopted. She truly was a gatherer, like her Indian name says. She collected everything from flowers and rocks to tribal history. She founded the library, which is also a museum, which still stands on the Stockbridge Reservation. In memory of her husband, she founded that. In July of 2005, my grandma Miller walked on, and I have a poem written by my Aunt Dot about my grandma Miller, and I will read that now. So the poem goes, my sister Bernice is a self-styled gatherer. Weeds she gathers to weave into wall hangings, yarn someday to warp and woof, scraps of Stockbridge tribal history. Seeds for scattering in her backyard garden. People gather at her house, Hardy, Richard, Julie, Jim, Bert, Kathy, Carol to stay. Sayings, Uncle Bert said, Grandma Myrie said, Annie Bisa said, Bosie, Mamasi said, you'll hear when you know her. Art, artifacts, antiques, junk, her own and other people's accumulate. Can Bernice drive a car, operate a cassette recorder, adjust Venetian blinds, or organize and write reports? No way. But she's got stuff. Poke her interest with a question, Bernice will start sifting, uncovering, dragging out, to pile before your eyes a mountain of her gatherings, which you may use to do your thing. Bernice's thing is gathering, and in this she excels. And then the last thing that I will share with everything is a poem that my grandma Miller wrote for her grandchildren. And I'd also like to think that those were for her great-grandchildren, her great-great-grandchildren, and the generations to follow. And I hope that this will stay among our family for as long as we're all on this earth. And the prayer is, I said a prayer for you today, and no, the Creator must have heard. I felt the answer in my heart, though He spoke no words. I didn't ask for wealth. I knew you wouldn't mind. I asked Him to send treasures of a far more lasting kind. I asked that He be near you at the start of each new day, to grant you health and blessings and friends to share your way. I asked for happiness for you in all things great and small, but it was for His loving care I prayed for most of all. I pray this for you every day. Love, Grandma Miller. I'd like to say Anishi, Anishi, Anishi to everyone I can. Thank you.
Sakoli Squagway, Summer Nungets, Unwe Ni'i, Waganyaka, Niwagita Loda. Hello everyone, my name is Summer. My tribe is Oneida, and my clan is Turtle. Today I'm sharing with you an Ancestral woman from Oneida. Dr. Lila Rosa Minoka Hill became the second female Native American doctor in the United States in 1902. Born a Mohawk in 1876, she married Charlie Hill in Oneida and moved with him back to Oneida, Wisconsin, where he had built a house on a farm. Dr. Hill practiced medicine but didn't have a Wisconsin license, so she practiced informally in her kitchen. She practiced in an inconspicuous way. She gave without demanding payment. The doctor on the reservation left to serve in World War I, and so more and more people came to see her. Influenza was rampant, and she and her 6 children became sick too. Charles contracted appendicitis and died in 1916, leaving Rosa to raise their 6 children. In this era, Native people were denied access to hospitals and health education. Child mortality was 3 times the national average. Dr. Hill learned herbal remedies from local medicine men and women and incorporated those skills into her kitchen clinic. She made house calls, taught preventative medicine, and accepted food as payment for her services. Though she had a heart attack in 1946 that left her blind in one eye, she continued practicing from home. In 1949, she received the Doctor of the Year award from the American Medical Association. You're welcome.
Yam Kutu Wakanak, Brothertown Indian. I'm a proud member of the Brothertown Indian Nation. The Brothertown Indians are an amalgamation of tribes from the East Coast. You probably have heard of some of those other tribes, perhaps the Narragansett, the Pequot, the Montauk, the Mohegan, Tungus. Maybe you're familiar with some of them. That group of tribes came together to live as brothers in response to the experiences that they had with the United States government. And many of my ancestors determined that the safest way to take care of our people was to come together with other tribes, and in part there was an adoption of the religion of Christianity as another mechanism to help us be able to have the next generation coming forward. As our story unfolds, as similar to many other tribes, there were forced relocation, and as you've heard earlier today, by 1830, all of the tribes were intended to be removed from east of the Mississippi to the west of the Mississippi. The Brotherton had been removed 4 times in 60 years, and they were hoping to have this be the final journey, and they'd be able to have land certain. And there was a treaty enacted in 1832, and there were a group of what was referred to as the New York Indians, and it was comprised of the Stockbridge Mohican folks, who are relatives on this side of the stage, the Oneida, who are in the center of the stage, and the Brotherton. And we had an opportunity to move to Wisconsin, and there we were placed on land that was shared with other tribes who you've heard from earlier today as well. The Menominee and the Ho-Chunk of Winnebago had a large majority of the land here. And so we were welcomed in and able to have space to raise our families. I'm grateful to the ancestors who made the decisions that they had to make to be able to keep us alive and keep us moving. There was another relocation because there was not enough land when we were settled on that tract of land. It was reduced to on the eastern shores of Lake Winnebago. There was another relocation effort, and many of the Stockbridge relatives and Brotherton relatives did travel with the Ho-Chunk to what was referred to as the Winnebago Agency in central Minnesota. There were several that stayed in the area as well. And Wisconsin is where we call home. You can see woven into this beautiful piece of art is a map that depicts some of the migration of the Brotherton and our relatives that traveled with us. Mary Burns did a beautiful job of that. This is an image of Polly Moore DeGroat, and she's Brotherton Indian. She and her family made their journey from the east over to Wisconsin, and they traveled through the Erie Canal. She had 8 of her siblings, and her mom brought her. Her dad had passed on fighting in the Civil War, and so it's a tremendous journey, but it's not a unique journey. Many of our ancestors made a similar journey, of course, by foot. There was no, or by boat. They didn't have cars and trains and all those things to travel by at that time. I am grateful to the ancestors. I'm grateful for their forethought. They were reflective on those that had gone before and learned from those lessons, and they were also very mindful going forward. How do we make the best decisions we can for the next generations? They wove together relations with other tribal leaders and ancestors, and they wove together a commitment to take care of the culture and the language and the land and the water and all of the the things that we need to live in a life of balance and live in a good way. So grateful to our ancestors.
I really learned a lot today. This is so interesting.
If it weren't for our ancestors, we wouldn't be here.
They sacrificed so much for us.
It really makes me want to work on learning my language.
After all, they are a part of our family.
Indigenous, here I am. And I'm really grateful to be here today. I was thinking back there, thinking about the grace of God that we're all here. And with our elders here, our Anishinaabe. I was thinking of my great-grandma. Her name was Bindigan Asanukwe, and she was a medicine woman. And I didn't know that right away, and I was working with Trails program, testing realities, investigating lifestyle on reservation in Flambeau. And I got a letter from one of her daughters and her granddaughters, and she wrote to me and she said, "Your grandma would be really proud of you." So here I am, carrying on and helping our people and doing the things that she probably prayed for us, that way to carry on, because they weren't allowed to practice their language and their way of life, So when I grew up, I was a Catholic and assimilation, and we came here to this city of Milwaukee, and I lived here 13 years, got married and divorced, and then found a lot of spiritual people and I knew something was missing in my life, and that was my Anishinaabe ways of life. So went back to that and went to a lot of sweat lodges and ceremonies and sun dances and, getting called by the Spirit. So we're called by Him, to come forward, and this is what our women are doing now today. We're stepping up and coming forth as grandmas and great-grandmas and young sisters, and people that have it. But I just wanted to share, because of all the things that was kind of written about me, because I'm an Eagle Staff carrier, and you'll see it here. There's a little story behind that. I was had a lot of eagle feathers that were given to me over time, but they were all, from great honor from different people. But I just didn't want to have all those eagle feathers on the staff, and so I didn't do it. And then about a month later, here I got a whole eagle that was given to me, and I said, okay, I got to make that staff. So here it is. And then went to the Sundance and received a pipe there, and I said, wow, a woman pipe carrier, now this is going to be my challenge in life, to go ahead and do these things and have drums and different things, because like Bobby was saying here, Beji Gabo was saying, that they always portrayed the men up there in big war bonnets, and these are the ways that our people are, and he was, not saying anything, but then the women was always behind. But now, today we're up there and we're singing and we're praying and doing sweat lodges and helping the people. And I'm a moon dancer, and I'm going to be dancing my 4th year at the Women's Environmental in Minnesota with the Mexica people, and there's a prophecy of the condor and the eagle coming together and praying together, and that's happening, and it's really beautiful. So I encourage all you young ladies out there to, find who you are, why you're here, where you're going, and how you're going, and go to your elders, learn things about your culture, and learn things about your way of life. Maybe your grandmas and grandpas have many stories that were given to you to come, and find out your path in life. So with the 7 teachings, wisdom, respect, bravery, honesty, humility, truth, and love, those are the 7 teachings of our
Anishinaabe ways of life, and so I wrote a poem, and Mary Burns did all these tapestries here, these woven images of our elders. And she had a grand opening in Wausau, and she asked me to write a poem and also do the opening for her show. And the Strawberry Moon Singers, Donna and I are part of the Strawberry Moon Singers, and we went there and supported Mary. And so I wrote this poem called Ancestral, Woman of Creative Spirit. And at this time, I'm honoring all our elders and that went on before us and made a path of their life for us and keeping us in prayers, because they went through a lot of hard times. You know, today you can just go in and turn the faucet on and get a drink of water. And we had to carry water. We had to go to the outhouse. We had to do things like that. You know, so the young people are really blessed. But we also have to keep in mind to learn survival needs, because there's a time coming when you're going to have to do that. And you're going to learn how to take care of yourself out there. So you can see in the world today what's happening out there. So you need a lot of prayers, and everybody's got to come together and pray together. And like the Flammable, next year, June 21st, we're having a World Peace and Prayer Day there. So if you'd like to come, you know, put that on your calendar. Okay, here's the poem. Carried away here. Ancestral woman of creative spirit. We are the great grandmothers, mothers, daughters, aunties, Gete Anishinaabe life givers, cultural barriers. We are the red woman, earth vessels. We are the sound of the eagle whistles, the heartbeat, healing love, and the backbone of our families in local reservations, our urban communities, representatives of our states. We embellish our aura with love, keeping native culture alive even through assimilation. Two paths, one living to keep our Anishinaabe culture by ceremonies, pipes, sun dancing, moon dancing, Madei, big drum, water walks. The other path, church, school, governments, councils, committees. Both paths are the major concern for the future generations leaving their individual legacies. The drum beat life, like the smudging cedar. How the Great Spirit, Gitchimanidu, blesses survival from our ancestors, source of life, by hearing their prayers of the past, present, and future. The Ogichidakwe are the center of their homes and connectors in the tree of spiritual life. Also, the relationship with sky world, grandmother moon, grandfather sun, the circle light, and the four seasons in the four directions. Their lineage, direct descent from our ancestors, our clans, our names, reproduced with the perception reality, weaving the values, women of leadership, given intricate teachings to live and help their families. We are listening for our guidance, which concedes the understanding of our way of life. We are reflecting the prayers from our Gete Anishinaabe grandparents years ago. We have great humbleness for reverence of our Great Spirit, creator of all, the awareness that we are in the Creator's presence. Each moment is sacred. Capturing woven images of ancestral women brings honor by dignity, a breast reverence. Awareness does reflect many life endurances, strong hearts filled with love and kindness from the weaver, Mary Burns, Miigwech. Now we're going to sing a song here, an honor song, to honor our elders and our Gete Anishinaabe, and to honor each one of you out here in your life. And, so you can stand up and sing an honor song. This song is to help you in your life, and to bless you, to think about the future, the present, and don't look back. Good life. Even living a good life. This song was given to me by Larry from Red Lake, Minnesota, when I was over by my sister Mary Ellen Baker's in the Ogichigukwe. In Kukudere, we had a gathering there to help the people. And So I was hoping the children. And this shaker was given to me by Sylvia, the head leader of the Moon Dance. When we were out to Standing Rock, went out there to sing some songs or offer prayers out there. And so I had this, and then I didn't give it back to her that when I got done using it, and then I took it back to the Moon Dance when we were out there. And she said, well, she wasn't expecting it back, so this is very sacred instrument. It might not look like it, but it is. And it's for the children, so we're all children in the community, so. Hey, And also, I'll put a thing in here for you. We heard Becky saying she had money here to come here, so we have a gold fund. And I see us going, and I see us doing great things for this Anishinaabe way. This women's gathering here. I see us going to Evergreen in Washington, the Smithsonian. We're going to Australia, and maybe we're going to do the nanny wars. So keep us all in your prayers, and thank you for being here today.
One day we will be ancestral women too. We need to walk in a good way so those who come after us can do so as well.